Big Phillies win today at Citizens Bank Park for an afternoon matchup with the Toronto Blue Jays. It's Phillies Talk Podcast with Rich Baxter talking all about it on this show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Phillies Talk Podcast for May 10th, 2023, and the Phillies with a huge win this afternoon, late afternoon in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park. They beat the Toronto Blue Jays in extra innings, and this was a good Blue Jays team. Let me tell you, 21-15 coming into this game against the Phillies, who were 17-19. Now they're only one game under 500 again with the win today, 2-1. Down in South Philly, they are now 18-19. And this was an old-fashioned pitcher's duel, folks. It had it kind of written all over it in my book. When I arrived at the stadium today, I had a feeling that Wheeler and Gausman were just going to get tangled up into this pitching exhibition, and that's exactly what we saw at the ballpark this afternoon. Not much offense except for late in the game by the Phillies, and the Phillies won it with a fielding error. So despite them getting two men in scoring position in the bottom of the first, couldn't score any of the runners. The Phillies came back and won this game, one that they were losing by a score of 1-0 for most of the game. 7 hits in total by the Phillies on this game, compared with 4 hits for the Blue Jays. And another solid performance by Nick Castellanos. He was 2 for 4 with 1 strikeout, but he had a great play in the field. He prevented a run from scoring for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's been money out there in the field as well as at the plate for the Phillies. He's sporting a .322 batting average still for the Phils. And Real Muto with a nice double set the Phillies up to win this game late in the bottom of the 9th inning. It was a great rally. Fans really got into it. They were quiet for most of the game, and many of them stuck around, let's just say, and stood up, cheered, and really interjected some life into that ballpark. 31,000 and change there today. 31,758 was the total, and that was a nice crowd. Let me tell you, compared with a few of the crowds that I've been to so far at Citizens Bank Park with the 44,000 plus, 31,750 was sort of a lot of breathing room. You had, not as long lines at the concession stands, the bathrooms, for the most part. I mean, I don't know, but when it's a sellout, it's a complete sellout at 44.7 or 44.8. That's approaching above capacity for that stadium. You can see that all the services are stressed, the booths where you buy things, the bathrooms specifically. I mean, the ladies' room had, a week ago or so when I was there, 30 or 40 people waiting outside the ladies' room to get in. I mean, that's a little obscene and absurd for them, have to wait that long. I can't imagine it. The men's room, same thing. When it gets that crowded, it gets tough to, do what nature calls, especially when you're drinking the beers. But anyway, back to that great Phillies win. This meeting with the Phillies and the Blue Jays was the first of 2 meetings this year by the two teams. The Phillies will return the 2-game favor and visit Toronto in August 15th and 16th. They'll be on the road, sandwiched in between off days. And then they move into Washington on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of August. So, and that 20th game, believe it or not, August 20th, they'll be in Williamsport, PA to play that game against the Washington Nationals. Of course, Little League World Series, and that will be a game that is broadcast on ESPN at 7:10 p.m. So mark your calendars for that. August 20th, Phillies versus Washington. Phillies playing in Williamsport, PA. And of course, if you've been following the news lately, you'll know that the Phillies and the Mets could be playing an exhibition series in London next year, 2024. So UK Phillies and all those Phillies fans over there in Great Britain and England will be able to probably go see the Phillies next year once it's officially announced by the team. But it's already broken into the news media. So, when that happens, it's usually got some substance. So let's see what happens with that. That'll be great. I know some Phillies fans will want to go over, make that trip. I've been over there a few times. Love England. They have such a nice country over there and nice accommodations. Trust me, if you go there, you're going to love it. You're going to have a fun time. So just take plenty of pounds with you when you go over there and you'll be fine. But anyway, and if you do go there, try to stretch it. Don't go there for just the ball games. Go there for a couple extra days, maybe 3 or 4 if you can spare it, and experience some of that old world country that England can be. They're very modern at the same time, but they're very old world too. So can't wait for the initial official announcement of that by the Phillies and the Mets, of course. So that'll be a great series, and always better when the Phillies win. I mean, imagine me doing this podcast if the Phillies lost. It would probably sound like the last one, droning on and on and on about certain things. But the game went to extra innings today. And of course, when that happens, the game changes a little bit. Some comments on Twitter coming through here. Baseball and bunting, the Phillies don't seem like they practice bunting a whole lot. And these guys have probably bunted their whole lives. They're career baseball players. They're capable of it, but do they do it often? Probably not. When's the last time you've seen the Phillies lay down a squeeze play on a bunt, something like that, Years ago, there used to be plenty of bunting. You'd almost bunt to get on base sometimes if you were a certain hitter. But a lot of that has changed with the advent of, high-powered offenses and things like that. Well, this afternoon, May 10th, 2023, was game number 37 for the Phillies. The home game, it was home game 18 for the Phils. And I was listening to the Toronto Blue Jays radio broadcast when I was at the stadium watching a game for a little bit. And believe it or not, the Blue Jays, I believe, have been on the road. This was their 36th game as well for them. The 36th game, rather. The Phillies had 37. But they've been on the road for like 24 games total this year, the Blue Jays have. They haven't really been home all that much. And they were commenting about that on the air, that, Blue Jays have been a team that's largely been on the road for some reason with all the scheduling things going on. And I didn't look at their schedule yet. But maybe I'll take a gander at it now real quick while I have a chance. I'll bring it up on Baseball Reference. and take a look at it. But the Blue Jays looked good today. I mean, they have some power hitters that are incredible on that team. Matt Chapman leads the team right now with a 2.3 WAR. Bo Bichette right behind him, 1.9. And Kevin Kiermaier at 1.5 WAR. And right behind him, Vladimir Guerrero, 1.2 WAR. So you've got four mashers right there in a row. This is a high-powered offense team. They're on a winning record. Just so happens they're in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, the American League East. And I think they're in like fourth place with a 21-15 record. That's kind of crazy, but look at the start that the Tampa Bay Rays had, and they're still burning up the field with wins. And a 21-15 record in the American League East is good enough for fourth place rather. So, yeah, that's kind of kooky. We'll have to see what happens going forward towards the middle of the season. The season, by the way, is just getting into about 22% being finished. So we're almost up to the quarter mark. We're almost at the quarter pole here in the 2023 season. And it happens fast, doesn't it, folks? Won't be long now. We'll be talking about Memorial Day in just a couple weeks. And that's really the start of some really heated baseball races. Memorial Day starts, the meat of the baseball season, really. From Memorial Day on through Labor Day, actually, all through the summer is the meat and potatoes of the baseball season. You can discard March a little bit. You can discard April a little bit. But when you get into late May, into around Memorial Day, that's it for a baseball team. You can make it or break it. In the Phillies case, they basically had a mirror type of record last year for 2022. There were 4 games under 500 on this date. The Phillies today were 2 games under 500 starting the day off, and they ended up, of course, 1 game under 500, but it's a little improvement over last year from where they were at this time. So I'm happy with it. Great win. Zach Wheeler going a good distance for the Phillies today. He's set to reach 10 years of Major League service on June 11th when the Phillies are home against the Dodgers. And today was Wheeler's 43rd career start as a member of the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park since July 25th, 2020. Wow, that was a fast 43 career starts. Didn't think it was that high. Wow. He's already logging quite a bit of time as a Philadelphia Philly here. He didn't get the win today, but he came into the game at 18-9 with a 2.36 ERA at Citizens Bank Park. So he's really pitched well in front of the hometown crowd once again today. He has done it. And how about the fans showing up for the Phillies? The fans have been really supporting this team all year. And it says here prior to today's game with the 31,700 and change, through 17 games at Citizens Bank Park, the Phillies are averaging 39,850 per game, which ranks third among all clubs in Major League Baseball, behind only the Dodgers, who have 47,982, and the Cardinals, which incidentally they're in last place over there in the National League Central. They average 39,921 fans. So the Phillies hometown crowd supporting them. The first 17 games at home, 10 have been sellouts. That's 59% of the games already have been sellouts at Citizens Bank Park, including last night's game. So a Tuesday night at Citizens Bank Park drawing a huge crowd, and then a Wednesday afternoon, sort of a nice crowd for the Phillies, 31,000. As I said, it was a breath of fresh air if you're used to those huge crowds. Sunday's game, which I was at as well, 44,669. It was the largest regular season crowd at Citizens Bank Park, believe it or not, since June 22nd of 2019. So that broke a bit of a record there for the past couple of years. One of the biggest crowds of the year was last Sunday, 44,669. So the fans are back. They're supporting this team. And the team hasn't played. Could you imagine if this team was 24-11 or 25-10 or something like that, 26-10? I mean, you'd have sellouts every game. It would be like the old days, going back to 08, 09, 2010. I think we had several years of sellouts in a row. I'd have to do that research again, but I do remember multiple years of sellouts at Citizens Bank Park. There was a ton of fans showing up in support of the team way back then, and even now to a certain extent. JT Realmuto, as I said, the star of the game, one of the stars of the game. And that's what I like about this team. It doesn't seem like any particular one person is carrying the team, but for sure, especially since Bryce Harper has returned, the fortune of the Phillies, I think, has gotten better. You know, he's brought a bit of a wild card into this lineup with the DH. He's a good hitter. I mean, he reminded me a little bit of Pete Rose today, where he was swinging to get a hit. He wasn't swinging for the fence a couple times. He was just swinging to make contact. Good things happened, and he reached base. So he's doing what he does best, and that's why Bryce Harper is a superstar. He is getting his bat on the ball, and good things are happening for him. Well, the Phillies, after today's game, on their way out to Colorado for a weekend series with Colorado Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the lineup of pitchers looks like Taijuan Walker going for the Phils on Friday night at 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Ranger Suarez, he'll be going for the Phils on Saturday at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. And Suarez will be back in a rotation. Be interesting to see how he forms there for the Phillies. And Sunday, May 14th, it's the real Mother's Day. You know, last Sunday at the ballpark, the Phillies celebrate Mother's Day with giving a nice giveaway away to the moms out there. But, you know, this weekend is the real calendar date for Mother's Day. Sunday, May 14th. Phillies playing at 3:10 p.m. Aaron Nola on the mound for the Phillies. So if you're going to take mom out, maybe try to schedule it around the game, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, somewhere around there. Mom, it's going to be a little late. We got something to do in the afternoon, you know. So hopefully everybody will have a great Mother's Day out there. And as I said, great win by the Phillies. Let me just read some stats off here before we wind up this podcast. I know I didn't get too stat heavy on the last show. I kind of rambled on about time of game and things like that. I promise not to on this podcast. I was very happy with the time of game today. Almost made 3 hours. 2 hours and 56 minutes was the total. And I can live with that. I can live with a 3-hour game. Give me the 3-hour game. Okay. And that's all I'll say about it. All right. Zach Wheeler improved his ERA to 3.80, pitching 7.0 solid innings, only giving up 3 hits, 1 run, one of which was earned, of course, 7 strikeouts on the day. So he had an awesome game. After the game, Rob Thompson really praised him, as did he praised the bullpen with Soto pitching well for an inning, only had a walk and a strikeout. And he kind of pitched a lot of pitches, but he got out of it. Dominguez, same thing, pitched an inning, 2 strikeouts, did very well. And Craig Kimbrell, very surprising that Rob Thompson would go back to Kimbrell at the time that he did today. And Kimbrell answered the call, and he actually ended up getting the win. So the loss the other day with Kimbrell, forgotten about, and he's back on track. It looks like Thompson seems to be favoring Kimbrell as a closer here for a certain amount of time. We'll see how long that lasts. The Phillies today, team runners in scoring position, 1 for 10. And they started the game off, if you remember, in the first inning, they had 2 runners on. They were 0 for 2 right off the bat. But as the game went on, they got more chances, runners in scoring position, but only ended up with 1 for 10, squeaking by the Toronto Blue Jays with a 2-1 win this afternoon in extra innings at Citizens Bank Park. Batting averages, let's take a look at that. Current batting averages for the Phillies. Bryson Stott, he's at 276. Trey Turner had a lot of chances today, and, he made the best of it. He's batting 261. And Bryce Harper, the DH, as I said, great job with him. Got 2 hits, 5 at-bats today. He's batting 321 on the season. And Nick Castellanos, as I said on the open of this podcast, 322 batting average. He was 2 for 4 today. And I'm going to get back to him in a second. Kyle Schwarber, 1 for 4. He's got a 187 batting average with 3 strikeouts today. Schwarber had a lot of opportunities today and didn't really seize too many of them. JT Realmuto got that key hit. He was 1 for 4. Alec Boehm couldn't get it going today. He was 0 for 4, batting 270 on the year. And Brandon Marsh out in center, 0 for 2 with 2 walks. So he did earn 2 walks on the day, batting 311, and rounding out the starting 9 for us, except for the pitcher, of course, Edmundo Sosa, batting 294 on the season. He was 0 for 3 today at Citizens Bank Park. Base running, Castellanos had a steal in the first inning. So he was the only Philly that ended up with a steal today. Looking over at the Blue Jays, they were 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position today, only managing to get 1 run in, and that was a home run by Brandon Belt in the 5th inning. So from the 1st to the 5th inning, it was a very, pitcher's duel, so to speak. And then the Blue Jays get on the board with the 1 solo home run by Belt, and they came back to tie it in the bottom of the 9th, the Phillies did, and had an opportunity to win it then, but they just couldn't put it away. Went to the extra innings, and the Phillies win on a throwing error by Bo Bichette. And, however it takes to win, however it takes, that's what the motto of the Phillies is, and that's what they did today. in a great win over the Toronto Blue Jays to end up one game under 500. Well, it was a great day at the stadium today. They go on the road, like I said, for a little bit here, going out to Colorado for the weekend, and then going to San Francisco for some late night games on Monday, Tuesday, and an afternoon game on Wednesday before heading back home on the 19th to face the Chicago Cubs at home. And that'll be my next game on the weekend against Chicago. And then Arizona comes in. And this was my second Wednesday game that I've been to so far this year. And I may be going to another Wednesday game, which is May 24th at 1:05 p.m. So we'll see. If you read the blog over at fightingphillies.com, you'll read an article that I wrote just a day or two ago about the heart of the Phillies schedule. And it's coming up at the end of May, as I'm going to kind of end this podcast talking about it. The Phillies playing that homestand, as I said, the 19th, they come home May 19th, 20th, 21st against Chicago, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Arizona for 3 at home. Then comes this road trip. This is not the make it or break it road trip, but a road trip that the Phillies can really gain some ground on some of their NL East foes. They play Atlanta for 4 games, 25th through the 28th. They're off on a Monday. Then they go to New York, May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st. Now, I have an invitation to go to May 30th's game in New York, so I may be attending that game as well. We'll see. A lot of games this year for me. I'm back watching games live at the stadium quite a bit, and it's a thrill, Great time usually at the stadium. So that's the subject of a recent post that I had at fightingphillies.com. That 10-game road trip. I think it's the longest road trip of the year for the Phillies. 10-gamer, 4 games with Atlanta, 3 games with the Mets, and then 3 games with the Washington Nationals. Okay, so that'll be their toughest road trip of the year, or longest. I don't know about toughest, but it's one that they need to do well on to gain some ground in the NL East. Well, thanks for listening to this podcast, everyone. Subscribe to the show. Hit your, subscribe button so you don't miss it. If you're at the YouTube channel, I've got an automatic distribution of this. I don't know if I'll release the video portion. I did record it, but you can always go to the YouTube channel, Fighting Phillies Podcast, Phillies Talk Podcast, that is, with Rich Baxter. And again, I just want to say that my co-host, Matt Veasey, will be joining me soon. We're still working out the details of him being on the show. Very busy in his off time. And follow him over at Phillies Bell on Twitter if you would like. He's got some great content there. Seems like it goes around the clock. I'll have to ask him about that a little bit on the show. I wonder if he schedules a lot of those tweets, because anytime I turn on Twitter, his tweets are coming out like rapid fire. So check it out at Phillies Bell for Matt Veasey, my co-host here on Phillies Talk. And check out my website, fightingphillies.com. And of course, you can check out some of the greatest baseball talk shows on the internet at baseballtalkradio.com. It's the home for great baseball talk shows, all kinds of shows, professional and the independent shows, just like this one. And we rely on your support. So you can go to our websites and support this show. We're not bombarding you with ads. Although, as I tell my co-host on the Baseball Talk radio show, we'd love to have some ads to play you so we could make some revenue off of this, but we don't do that, So if you find it in your heart to leave $1 or $2 or $5 a month, you listen to the show, I appreciate it. So if you can't find out where to do that, send me a text or an email, rich@fightinphillies.com, or communicate with me via Twitter @fightinphillies.com. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week. Enjoy this road trip by the Phils, and I'll talk to you soon on the next edition of Phillies Talk Podcast.